Well, good morning again, and welcome to MasterMind Minutes. My name is Gary Occhiogrosso. I'm the managing partner of Franchise Growth Solutions, and you can click on the link above or below this webcast to learn more about what we do at Franchise Growth Solutions. MasterMind Minutes is the webcast where we share tips from experts in minutes, not hours. It's one guest, one question, and one expert answer, usually in about 10 or 15 minutes. And of course, if you need further information on the topic that our guest talks about today, you will get all of their contact information at the end, and you can feel free to reach out to them. Today, it's absolutely my pleasure to introduce a friend and associate of mine, Tom Scarda. He is the founder of the Franchise Academy. Tom was, and it's an interesting story, he'll tell us about it in just a minute. He was the #1 franchisee of the year in the first franchise concept that he was involved with. And then in his second franchise, he failed miserably. So typically, lessons learned from failure makes people an expert, and that is absolutely the case with Tom. He's also the author of several books, including the #1 bestseller, Franchise Savvy. And over the last 15 years, he's helped more than 1,500 people figure out if franchising is right for them. The Franchise Academy is a franchise educational website and podcast for folks who are frustrated with their career, downsized executives, and for people who want to make a passive investment in franchising. So, Tom, I want to thank you for being with us today. And before we get to our question, maybe you could expand a little bit about your background. I know it, but I'd love for our audience to learn a little bit more.
Hey, Gary, it's an honor to be on the show. You do some great stuff out there. Love your Forbes articles. So much information.
Thank you.
So it's just an honor to be here. I used to be a subway conductor in New York City, opening and closing doors, making announcements that nobody can understand, And, I got frustrated with the job. But one day, I remember clearly, there was an old timer who came up to me. I was kind of feeling down about myself and having to work Sunday night while everybody was home eating pasta. I was in the lunchroom eating a bagel with cream cheese and jelly. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Hey, kid, this is a great job because you'll always have a shirt on your back. It'll never be a silk shirt, but at least you'll have a shirt." Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that sounds like mediocrity to me. Yeah. In that moment, I decided I want to be a business owner, but I didn't know how. I mean, business owners were wearing the metaphorical silk shirts, but I was a government guy. I didn't have a great education. My father was a cop. I didn't have money, but I ended up hooking up with a franchise consultant who matched me to something called Maui Wowie Smoothies. He bought in back in 2000, built it into 3 locations in New York, had a great run. Within 5 short years, sold it and semi-retired at 41 years old. So it was like the American dream. It was unbelievable. Then we decided to buy a second franchise called Super Suppers. We dove into that kind of sight unseen and started out great. It was a make and take concept. Kim Severinsen, who's the author of the New York Times food section internationally, literally came to the store and said, "You guys are changing the way America eats, the way McDonald's and Swanson did 50 years earlier." I was like, you know what? We're going to be billionaires. Within 19 months, we were out of business, and we lost almost our entire life savings on that deal. Mm. That's what made me a franchise expert, though.
I would think so. Well, for those of you in the audience who have never been on a New York subway, although I will say they've gotten a lot better over the years, Tom, and it's not because you're not making the announcements, but if you've ever been on a New York subway and you're trying to listen for whatever stop you're supposed to get off, it sounds something like this. Watch the closing doors.
Right.
That's about what it sounds like. So I appreciate that. And listen, I appreciate your candor. Not a lot of people, really want to talk about failures. But the interesting thing is, from your failure came a lot of learning that's now put you in a position to build a business that helps people. Hopefully you give them, hopefully they listen and they avoid some of the pitfalls that you ran into. So it's a great way to carry over a failure into a success and experience and help people at the same time. So, I admire you about that. Okay, so here's today's one question, and it's interesting because it's not a very long question. It's just a few words, and I think because you've put so many people in business and you've matched, buyers and sellers, and you really understand the dynamic of what people need to understand in terms of looking inward when they're thinking about, getting involved in a franchise. The question for you is, why do you think franchises fail?
Yeah, it's a great question, and people need to know it. It's when they're going and investing what could be their life savings in a business, in a franchise. You gotta realize there's so many things. Not a business doesn't fail just for one reason. Usually, there's a few things going on. But one thing that people don't understand about franchising is that any business could call themselves a franchise. You just have to go and get the proper, the FDD and do all the legal work with the Federal Trade Commission, and then you could call yourself a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
The government doesn't care if the franchise makes money. They don't care if the franchisor is going to support the franchisee. They just want to make sure it's not money laundering or a pyramid scheme or, those kind of things. So you have to be careful about who you're getting involved with. You got to look for a great track record. And we get real in depth on how to do that, but you got to look for a good track record. And then my number one rule to anyone looking for a business or just wanting to start their own little business in town is do not become infatuated with a concept. So many people choose a business for the wrong reason, and then they go down this spiral rabbit hole into bankruptcy because they always hear the phrase you know it. If you love what you do for work, you never work a day in your life.
Well, to some extent.
That's true for work. Right? It's true for work.
Yeah.
But business is not a job. A business is building and creating a lifestyle and building equity. You could be a vegetarian and still own McDonald's. It doesn't matter. If you're a good manager, you're never going to be flipping burgers if you're a good manager. So those are the kind of things that I like to talk about. And there's, a laundry list of reasons. For me personally, I could keep talking. So stop me if you want to stop. But.
No, what I'm getting here, and again, just to kind of expand on the same question, on the one question, it would appear to me that, and again, I understand what you do. You really help people kind of reflect on not only what they would like to do, but what's a good fit, and looking at their skill sets and their lifestyle, because their lifestyle has a lot to do with it. So if I'm hearing you correctly, because we hear, oh well, businesses fail because they're undercapitalized, and I realize that's true, but what I'm getting from you is much deeper than that. It's about the franchisee finding the right vehicle for their success. And as you said, they could be a vegetarian and own a McDonald's. If that's the right vehicle for their success, then so be it. It's business, not personal. Is that what I'm hearing you say, that it's a very personal type of decision?
Well, it's very personal, but you should not make a decision based from a consumer perspective as opposed to the business perspective. Like, hey man, I really, really love, acai bowls. I eat them every day. Does that mean I should own an acai bowl franchise from your buddy? I'm blanking out on his name. I meant
Acai Express. It's one of my clients. They're a great concept. Great concept. Yep.
Right. It's a great concept. But just because I love acai bowls doesn't mean that I should own an acai bowl franchise. Maybe it does. Don't get me wrong. Mm. But if that's the only reason I'm buying an acai bowl franchise, that's a big mistake.
Right. So I guess then, to kind of sum it up, and it kind of leads me to really urging people to contact you, because it sounds like, in addition to just kind of this top line concept that we've talked about, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of things for people to know. There's a lot of investigative work on both sides, not only the ZOR, but also the franchisee. And it sounds like, what you do is really help kind of guide people and keep I'll use the term, keep their feet to the fire, and not let them get so emotionally wrapped up in what, what they think they want to do, that they lose sight of a lot of the facts. And I think your story about your second franchise really kind of, tells the tale. So Tom, if folks want to get in touch with you directly, what's the best way? Phone number, website, email?
Yeah, I mean, what website? It's just the Franchise Academy, franchiseacademy.com. My name, tomscarda.com. It all goes to the same place.
Okay, good.
That's really the best way is get to the website. You could book times, calendars, all this technology that we have now. It's so great.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But
okay.
That's the best way to do it.
So what'll happen is when we amplify this on LinkedIn, and it'll be on YouTube, and we'll post all of your contact information so folks can get in touch with you directly. Well, I want to thank you for spending a few minutes with us today. As you know, we try to keep this thing under 15 minutes. And I really do appreciate you being on with us today. I know how busy you are, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person. So be well.
Yeah, hopefully very soon in person.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for all you're doing in franchising, man. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. You too, Tom. Be well. Bye-bye.